Some contractors may believe that they have a lead problem, but it's usually not a lead problem at all. It's a documentation problem. A call not written down, a text buried, an email not followed up upon. When I ask what happened to that lead, it's usually I called, I left an email, but nothing is actually documented. If it is not documented, it did not matter. Today, we're talking about why documenting is so important when it comes to your leads. Hey, I'm Shay Toya. I've spent more than 10 years in construction, working behind the scenes in marketing, hiring, and I've seen how overwhelming it can be to grow a business. That's how we've learned to build a sustainable business using clear systems, strong communication, and intentional recruiting. If you're ready for better hiring, smarter remarketing, and a business that doesn't fall apart when you step away, welcome to Building Better Contractor Businesses. Let's say something that might get super uncomfortable for some of you. Some of you do not have a lead problem. You have a documentation problem. You don't actually know how many active leads you currently have. Where are they currently in the pipeline? Who owns that lead? Or what's supposed to happen next? You are super busy. Your team is very busy. And everyone thinks that someone else owns that lead. Then a week goes by, maybe 2, 3, 4, and then you realize, I never followed up with that lead. And you feel that it's too late if you follow up with that lead now. That client never got a call back. That follow-up never happened. Not because you do not care, you care a lot. Not because you're not capable, you are very capable, but because it wasn't written down anywhere. Or maybe it was written down, but you maybe placed it on one of those notepads and maybe you have hundreds of them on your desk and you forgot about it. That forced movement when there's no visibility. There's no accountability. And when there's no accountability, revenue becomes inconsistent. That's the part no one talks about. Documentation isn't admin work. It's revenue control. If it's not documented, it did not happen. I am not the one who is currently personally answering the incoming leads, but that wasn't always the case. For over a decade, I've worked behind the scenes at K&B Communications, answering the phone, and for years, our follow-up system didn't exist. We were great at getting the job done, but afterwards, after the job was completed, we didn't consistently reach back out to the client. We didn't consistently follow up with the past clients. So that caused us, maybe we did it once, maybe a few times, or maybe when I remembered that we should follow up with our clients, but there was no structure. And no one knows how many past clients we forgot about because we got busy and possibly forgot or just did it when we remembered. Because we personally did not remind them that we were still here. That didn't change until recently. We hired a project coordinator. Her job is literally documentation and making sure everyone else is also documenting their process and conversations. We did not avoid documentation because we did not care. We didn't document because there was no structure to do so. We were busy, our team was busy, so things did not get documented. We didn't plan for it. With anything, everything has to be planned for, no matter what. Documentation protects your revenue before the job even starts. That way, your staff, your people in the field, everyone else who's involved with that project knows exactly what's going on. So, if you want consistent revenue, you need consistent documentation. So, here's what that looks like, at least for us. And I think it's very, very important for everyone to understand is find something that works for you. And as long as you're constantly doing it, that's really all that matters. So, number one is to define all lead entries points. So, we personally use Monday.com. We have found Monday.com works for us. So, find something that personally works for you guys. But for us, it's Monday.com. We have built in automations. That way, the right people are alerted immediately, of which honestly has taken time for us to do. We did have to hire someone on Fiverr.com to actually build in those automations. It did not come overnight, and that system was not robust. Also, that the website leads automatically go into your CRM. So when a lead is being filled through our website, a client, customer fills out any form on our website, it directly goes into Monday.com. And as I said, we hired someone on Fiverr to help us do that. And Fiverr is, you could find someone very affordable to help you do that. But here's what really matters. Everything has to flow into one system. So make sure you find something that works for you. Monday.com works for us, but does not mean it's going to work for you. Make sure it's not just on your phone. It's not just in a personal inbox. It's not in a notebook. Everyone should have access that needs to have access to this one system needs to have access. If it isn't in there, it doesn't exist. And during my market research calls, not every contractor that I spoke to was using a CRM system. Some weren't using anything structured at all, which I think it's very, very important. And as I said, you do not have to use Monday.com. Use something that works for you. If you find an Excel sheet works for you, then use it. But using a CRM system is very, very important. As I said, use something that works for you, but it has to be documented. Once a lead comes in, number two, every lead gets logged immediately, not later. We get busy. So for that reason, it's very, very important that you are documenting once you speak to the client, so that way it's fresh in your mind and you don't forget. It's very easy to get busy and forget. It doesn't matter what your position is. If you're the person who's answering the phone and you don't document it, another call comes in, you're like, oh shoot, what did that person say? Even if it was written down in a notepad, it does not matter if it was not in that one system for your CRM system. But it's very important that it does not happen later. And don't think, oh, I'll do that when I get time. Because unfortunately, with anything, you forget and you never have time. Do it immediately. Because what I always hear is, we were slammed, but that week we were super, super slammed. Busy weeks are when leads disappear. Every lead should include, so it's very important, this is included in your leads, their full contact info, the name, the company name, the phone number, email address, the project type. So depending on what your projects are, put that as well. The location of the job, the timeline of the project, budget conversations if discussed, where the lead came from. To me, this is super, super important as a CMO because I'm working very, very hard to make sure our team is getting the right leads and that we're not wasting time. So we need to know where the leads came from. Making sure that you're very clear what was said during that phone call. Anyone should be able to come behind you and know what happened, what, picked up the conversation. I think that's very, very important. If you are sick tomorrow, the worst thing that could happen is that so-and-so is now calling you, be like, hey, I see that you were working with this. What happened? Like, that should never have to happen. If it was noted in the CRM system that everyone has access to, anyone should be able to pick up that conversation and be like, hey, Joe's sick today, but I'm here to help you. That way, the client does not feel like they're being forgotten about. Very, very important. Also, be sure to add personal details. I think this is super, super important. If they told you what their daughter name is, if they told you that they're going on vacation, anything that they tell you personally, because yes, like for us, we do only commercial construction, we're dealing with actual people. So even though that we may be working with an organization, I'm dealing with Susan at so and so's company. So for that reason, make sure you're adding personal details because everyone wants to feel special. And if you remember that stuff, they're like, oh, they remembered. It makes them feel very, very special. And people remember when you remember. They remember that you remembered that their daughter is graduating next week and you're like, oh, how did it go? And that's part of your sales system. And I'll say this, I did work in the medical field for a very short amount of time. When I first graduated from high school, I thought I was going to be a medical assistant. But then I found out that they don't make a lot of money. I would have to, of course, get more education. But during the time that I was a medical assistant, I did see everything had to be documented. Everything. Not because they felt like it Not because they felt like it had to be completed, but because anyone should be able to step in and take over easily. And that should be the same standard within contractors, within subcontractors within this industry that we should have in our business as well, that everything is documented because it makes the process a lot more simple. Number 3 is your notes need to be super, super clear. Anyone in your organization should be able to walk behind you and win the job if necessary, even if our estimator is out sick. And then just also ask yourself, that person who quits tomorrow and they didn't document it, how are you supposed to get the information if they didn't do it? You, as the owner or whatever your job or role is, should be able to come in and be like, oh, this is what happened. So for that reason, like it's very, very important that everything is being documented. Your notes should include what problems are they solving? What urgency do they have? What expectations were set? What did we promise? So we told them that we were going to do it. We want to make sure we do it. What is the next steps? And if your notes are super unclear, your texts or field people will be unclear as well. To us, having our documentation so clear, now our project manager can go in and let our field team know exactly what's going on, and it makes it job a lot more simple. And then now the confusion shows up on the job site. You do not want your field team coming to a job site not prepared. Now they're wasting time, they're wasting money. So for that reason, like having these things documented is just going to help the field team get things done easier, a lot more better. Number 4, every lead system must have next steps. This is super important. This is one of actually our new internal standards for us. Every reach out must have what's happening next, what's going on now, who owns it. And I think this is very, very important on who owns it. The date it happens and Monday, but that date triggers a notification. So when we add the follow-up date within monday.com, it automatically triggers that notification to send it to the person who owns it. So that piece is very, very important. So no one has to remember. I think this is very important too. We get busy, your team gets busy, and you forget. And that is a big problem. Because yes, you may have placed that notepad on your desk, but you probably placed 100 notepads on your desk. And forgetting isn't a character flaw. You didn't forget because you wanted to forget. That's a system flaw. So another thing, like when it comes to like clear notes, making sure, because there's been times in our CRM system where I've seen it and the person just left a voicemail. but it's like, what's next? Or maybe our estimator or our whoever it was just placed in there some super vague notes. So it's just very, very important that the whoever's documenting there is documenting and being very clear on what happened. And if you're seeing that your team is not being clear, then have a discussion. And I feel like once we actually had that discussion of the importance of why we needed to have our notes very clear, it started to happen. So I think that's very, very important that when you are getting started with the documentation process, that you're making sure that the notes are very, very clear, that you have an idea of what happened, what's going to happen next, when is the person going to schedule a follow-up. Also, it's very, very important that your team knows who owns it. If no one actually owns that lead, then everyone kind of assumes that someone else will handle it, and that which could possibly kill revenue. Follow-up number 5 is that follow-up is a culture. Follow-up shouldn't depend on memory. If follow-up is a memory, then you're going to have a lot of issues. It should be built into your system. Every lead must show a follow-up date, an assigned owner, a status update, no floating leads. Every lead is documented. Every lead is automated. Consistency builds revenue before marketing ever does. Number 6, tracking lead source. So most contractors that I speak to couldn't tell me where their last 10 jobs came from. What percentage was referral based? How many of them came from your website? To me, this is very, very important because it tells me exactly what's working or what's not. If I don't know where that lead came from, if I don't know what type of project that we received, I don't know where we should go with marketing. So documenting of where the lead came from is very, very important, what type of project it was, because now we know exactly what's working and what's not. It's very, very important. Because if it wasn't documented for us within Monday.com, I cannot pull up it in our dashboard. So that's another reason why it's super, super important that it's documented within Monday.com, because now we've created a dashboard that provides us the information. So now I could see exactly what leads came in. I just pulled it up today. I pulled it up for you guys. So 40% of our leads came from Google. 26.7% of our leads came from actual referrals. 6% of leads came from our podcast, and 13% of leads came from Dream 100. And Dream 100 is actually one of the campaigns that we run. And if you've read the book, The Purple Cow, it talks about the importance of kind of standing out. And the Dream 100 allows you to do so. So that's one of the things that we've just restarted is our Dream 100 backup. So with the dashboard within Monday.com, I could see exactly how many leads came in this week, how many leads were denied, and then also knowing the reason of why they were denied. Were they denied because the customer couldn't afford it? Was it denied because they weren't ready? Was it denied because it just wasn't a good time? Was it denied because they were just trying to get 4 numbers and we weren't the cheapest? So many reasons why they could have denied us. But these are things that we need to know so we can make improvements of our jobs. Also, it's also telling us how many estimates were sent out, the total value of projects, because this information is just going to help us make sure that we're hitting business goals. From this information that we receive, it will help us make sure that we're setting our, real business goals. Not like, oh, we want to do this, but we're not actually documenting on how we're going to do that. I think that's very, very important that you're tracking these things because it pushes you in a direction of what's in reality of where you can go. And so with tracking your leads is just very super important. Number 7 is automations. And this comes after discipline. So once you're actually like tracking and you're like you're doing it on a daily basis, your team's doing it on a daily basis, you can start the automation process. Automations does not fix chaos. So that's why it's super, super important that you focus first on making sure that your team is actually putting in their documentation throughout the process of that lead, throughout the process that they've been a client. Just very, very important that you've done that. It just speeds it up. It makes it where, like automation speeds it up. We are not like, oh, I have to remember that. So it's one of the things that, helped us. And in the beginning, Monday was not at all robust. Monday.com wasn't even robust at all. We actually had to pay someone from Fiverr.com to make sure that it was customized for us. And honestly, it still has some kinks that we're still working out. And we've tried multiple CRMs. And they've just never worked and we were never consistent with them. So I just think it's very, very important that you find something that works for you. Monday.com, we now are being super consistent and making sure that everything is documented. So that is what we have found that works for us. And just because it works for us does not mean that it's going to work for you. But remember, automation only works when documentation is consistent. Very, very important. Otherwise, you're not automating. You're just getting confused. Documentation creates clarity within your organization. Clarity creates consistency. Consistency creates stability. If revenue feels unpredictable, if jobs feel chaotic before they even start, if you keep saying things like we need more leads, look at your documentation first. Not your effort, not your hustle, your documentation. Because if it's not documented, it did not happen. Ask yourself, do you know where every active lead is right now? Does every lead have a next step? Could someone step in tomorrow and pick up the slack or the process? This week, tighten one part of your document system. Make notes more specific. Be very specific on your notes. Require next steps. Stop relying on memory. And if you want to go deeper, join our Facebook community and tell us once you join, where is documentation breaking down in your business? We're not building busy contractor businesses. We're building structured, profitable contractor businesses. If it's not documented, it did not happen. And they used to say that all the time in the medical field as well. Let's build better contractor businesses. If you believe that this episode brought you real clarity, be sure to share it with another contractor who also needs it. And if you want to keep this conversation going, be sure to join our community of contractors inside Building Better Contractor Businesses Facebook group. This is a community where we talk through the real problems that you are having in your business. The link will be found in our show notes. And remember, we are not just completing projects. We are building better contractor businesses. I will see you next time.